I'll kick it off to say, what have been some of the most profound things you've been doing with AI
Yeah.
recently, and how has that changed how you think about everything?
I mean, I'll just tell you during the holiday break, all I had open was Claude Code. And then even when I came back from break, so we have this AI fluency thing going on right now, and we're just like, okay, screw all the other stuff. It's like we're mandating you got to be proficient with Claude Code in the next 6 months, and we're gonna help you get there. And I just think that we have godlike powers in our hands now. I don't know how to code. I don't know about you, but as someone who doesn't know how to code, all the different, and I'm happy to share my screen, the different, deal reviver, Slack bots, the churn risk escalation, the expansion opportunities, all these things that we couldn't do before, we have these things, right? And so I think for me, it's like it's almost like I discovered fire.
Whew, all right. Well, that's a way to kickstart this conversation. And as somebody who has recently installed Claude Code myself, I I agree. It's like having this super powered, crazy smart thing run off and be able to do a lot of things for you. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of, your imagination and your fluency in interacting with chatbots.
Yeah. And what I'll say too, I mean, we can tie it in with SEO as well, but I'm just layering on like the CRM, and then we have Gong for call recording, but then I have the Ahrefs MCP too. And I don't know if you guys have an MCP server, but I'm able to basically, hey, what are customers, what are prospects saying, what are clients saying, and then what are the objections we're hearing, and then from there it can recommend content we should be creating, and then it can sync in with Ahrefs, so it can cross reference the data and just say, oh, okay, looks like this type of content's trending upwards, you should be creating it, right? And then maybe you can just create a draft from there. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, this session I think is meant to be pretty interactive, pretty hands-on. I think we got a good 50 people in listening, tuning in. So I'd say let's get the show on the road. And I'll just kick it off to say, what are you thinking in terms of AEO these days? And how are you even approaching it for either yourself or your clients? Let's get hands-on. Let's start with maybe a concrete example. If you have, some work that you can show, then that'd be great. If not, I'm happy to use, Clearscope as a test bed for us to say, okay, if we wanted to win a more AI visibility in topic X, how walk me through like how you would do it. So what works for you?
yeah, I'll just kind of give the because I don't know what the and if you guys want to drop in chat. Frozen? Oh,
Yeah,
Bernard might
I
be
think
frozen.
I
Okay.
might have cut out or yeah,
Oh,
my
yeah. Anyway, but drop it into chat what level you think you're at. But I think the things I'm going to be saying, I'll cover kind of the blocking and tackling, and you can fill in there because I think my bet, I'm kind of speaking for Bernard. You tell me if you disagree with me. I think all this talk about AEO, GEO, LLMO, AI, SEO, it's SEOs has always evolved. If you're good SEO, you've always gotten better. And you and I know some of the best SEOs in the world. They've always evolved. They've always gotten better. So this to me is just an evolution of SEO. And so, it's funny. Everyone, the people that are getting into AEO, right? They're like, oh yeah, you got to do the listicles. And then now all of a sudden, the LLMs have gotten better at just scanning listicles that you spam on your website. And it's like, oh, you got to do guest posting now. Oh, okay. Oh, link building still matters, right? But beyond that, I think when you look at a website like MSNBC, for example, the things that they do well that get listed in the AI overviews, and I'm just going to jump all over the place here, but they have a lot of these articles where they're talking about the markets, right? And when you check out one of these articles, it just says key takeaways at the top, and there's three bullets. Like those get scanned by the AI overviews. The FAQs, those do really well. Like we have our own internal tool that we use, ClickFlow, and we use that to create FAQs. We use that to create internal links. A lot of these signals still matter because these LLMs are grounded on like a Google, for example, right? And look at what's happening right now. Oh, Apple is going to be using Gemini, right? Oh, everything goes back to Google at the end of the day. There, guys, still 42, 43% of search share. I think LLM traffic is still like 1%, and then ChatGPT is like 0.20% or so. So all that to say, $116 billion in profit a year. Guys, Google is still the big hairy gorilla in the room. But I would just say that, all the things that people are saying, yes, like we call it search everywhere optimization now, where because 15 years ago, Google was very much the only organic game in town. But now the game is YouTube. The game is Reddit now. The game is if you're doing shopping, Amazon. Oh my God, UCP just came out with Shopify and Google's collab, right? So there's all this new stuff coming out. And the rule in marketing before used to be the rule of seven, where if they see you seven times, they'll take an action. I think it's like the rule of 28 now, right? That because there's so many different platforms, right? And so I think, optimizing for YouTube, like we have a new YouTube brand guy starting next week, optimizing for Reddit. I think if I were to simplify this, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Bernard, because I just gave you a lot. Marketing 101 has always been about, hey, where's your audience hanging out? Maybe your best customers hanging out, and how do you get their attention first? And how do you nail one channel first before you scale it across the board, and then you can play the everywhere game. And it's been like that for SEO. You and I started with SEO in the beginning, and gradually we got better at other channels.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. I think, if I'm to put on my business owner hat and my, marketing strategy hat, I think we are in a world where cross-channel, multi-channel is even more important than it's ever been. I think, that has classically held true and is just expediting in, how many channels that the modern day marketer needs to learn, understand, practice. It's YouTube, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, Reddit, just to name a few. And that isn't even counting, a lot of the more traditional channels like search or AEO or email marketing, right? So I think it's all pretty wild. But I think to narrow the focus, right? Like a lot of people here work in SEO and are being tasked with AEO. And I realize that, a lot of AEO is, multifaceted these days. But what are some actual things that, you've tried, you've implemented that you can publicly share
Yeah.
that has really worked for you in
Yeah.
the last like couple
Yeah,
months?
I'll give you the last couple months or so. So I'll talk about us and maybe a client or two. So um, for us internally, so people will poop like guys, the listicle stuff still works as long as it's AI assisted. If you're making like top, 10 SEO agencies in Los Angeles, right? Those listicles still work, especially if you have authority on your website. So, you can use domain rating or domain authority, whatever you want to use as a metric. That works well for us. And I'll give you an example. We have one, we'll call it a programmatic SEO page. So one of these templated pages. And these still generate traffic for us. And I would say one of these pages alone that we put up recently generated one client that pays us 50 grand a month or so. So not bad in terms of monthly recurring revenue. And the other thing I would say to that is when we ask people when they come through our lead form, where did you first hear about us? Not how did you hear about us? Where did you first hear about us? A lot of it's ChatGPT LLMs right now, but where are they pulling this from? They are pulling it from the listicles on our site, and we're also trading with other agencies too. That's their top pages too, right? They want to get listed on ours. What like it's okay, like we'll do it, right? So is that a little great? Like yeah, but everyone like that's still guest posting at the end of the day. So that works for us. Any questions on that before I move to maybe a client?
So I guess when you're trading mentions or links or both. My question is, have you seen a difference in how important a mention or a link is in terms of weighting in getting more mentions and visibility in AI? Like, is there a correlation with rankings, domain authority, or any other, metrics that you've taken a look at?
Yeah. One, I would say whatever I'm telling you right now, I'm guessing, but my hunch would be that it is based on how strong is that website linking to you. For example, like I think I did read some studies recently around how like if you're a SaaS company, if you have G2 linking to you, if you're an agency, maybe you have one of these agency directories linking to you, those are really strong websites, right? And so I think if you have the authority, plus you have the mention as well. I mean, if you're designing an algorithm, it seems to make sense that those two would have weight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think on the surface, I think about probably like page rank, like,
Yep.
and I say that in a very literal sense. Like, if you have a website and it has a page ranking for whatever the topic or commercial prompt that you're looking for, that specific page is likely to vote with a
Yep.
lot more weight. And, that domain could be, like a 5 DR, but if the page is ranking, in the top few spots for that
Yep.
topic,
Yep.
then it's likely to pass a lot more mention weight or AI equity. I don't know
Yep.
what people are calling these days.
Yeah. It's they have? They have the so what do they have for Ahrefs? What do they call it? There's the domain rating, and then there is the URL rating.
UR,
Yeah,
yeah,
there. Yeah,
UR,
that's
yeah.
how I see it. So you can call it the page rank or the UR, whatever you want to call it. I so for our clients right now, what's working is because a lot of them are like, oh, we want more citations, right? They come in, they're like, oh, we want AEO. Everyone wants AEO, but they don't. But they tend to think it's very different than SEO. But we're not going to try to convince them otherwise. Like they believe what they believe, right? And so the things I mentioned earlier, what MSNBC does with the key takeaways at the top or the FAQs that you have on the bottom. So adding FAQs to these pages, updating these pages too, because when you think about the LLMs, the last 12 months or so, what is it, 95% of ChatGPT content is updated content, right? Now, that only makes sense where it actually makes sense. So just update stuff to update it, right? But that's, I think for one of our clients, they maybe only had I don't know, a couple hundred citations or so. Now it's a couple thousand just by doing this, by updating content, FAQs, things like that.
I'm like keeping a loose set of notes for the key takeaways I'm gonna
Yeah.
set
Yeah.
after. I was just laughing because I just literally wrote on my like text pad. I was like, update stuff just to update it.
Yeah.
But I think that is fundamentally true. And the reason why I think that that is super important is because large language models are trained on training data. And then when they're generating responses, a large percentage of the prompts that you ask will trigger what we call grounding with search, or the fact that AI will perform web searches. The idea behind why large language models do this is because training data is only trained up to a specific date and time. And training is very expensive currently. It takes a lot of time. So what ends up happening is that the agent's knowledge is likely to become out of date for specific topics, which is why, to prevent inaccuracies and hallucinations, the agents themselves will perform searches that then want to verify whatever the claims that the AI is likely to be making. Hence, the up-to-dateness or timeliness of the content becomes even more significant. And yes, we are generally finding that AI will prefer to cite content that is updated in the last, 3 to 6 months because it's relying on that to patch any inaccuracies that it might have with the response it's about to give back to the end user.
Yep, totally. And I think the other thing I would add here is when you look at Google Search Console, and it used to just look at websites, right? But now it's looking at entities, right? So it's looking at is this YouTube connected to you? Is this Instagram connected to you? So it's looking at everything, right? And think about it this way: they already had a very strong search algorithm. Now they have. I think arguably the strongest AI in the world, right? And so you would think that they have more data points to measure on, and they can measure a lot faster with all the TPU power that they have now. So.
Completely agree. We got some questions. I think they're like talking a bit about, social, talking a little bit about, yeah, just other experiments that you're running. Do you want to take those now, or did you have
Yeah,
some other
I, I,
thought that you wanted to go down?
I can take some of those, and then I'm happy to even. I think we got to get people to inject the Claude Code drug in by the
Okay.
end of this too.
Okay. Okay.
I
Okay.
just think it's so
All
important.
right, all right, all right.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's put a pause on this. Like,
yeah,
I know Claude Code is all the rage, and so I do you want to show some workflows, some things that you've been doing with Claude Code, or
yeah.
yeah, what?
I can do that piece, and then I want to come back and answer Ekta's question, Daniel's question. Drop your questions in here. We're gonna answer your questions too. But I just think this is such a seminal moment. And those of you that came in a little later, pre-show, Bernard and I were just talking about. Like I told Bernard, like I don't know how to code, and I feel like I just discovered fire. And so let me just go high level here, and Bernard, you can control my energy a little bit because I'm just so excited about this. So Claude Code, okay, it sounds scary. Like, yes, you have the ability now, you have the superpower in your hand where you can create almost anything you want. And I'm going to show you a couple of things that I made. And just the ability to just type in what your goals are and what you're trying to create and going back and forth with this thing, and it just writes out the code for you. And whenever the thing doesn't work, it just kind of fixes it for you. You just have to sit with it. We are in a world now where I told Bernard, I think in the next 12 months or so, you and I, everybody here, actually, we're gonna have multiple monitors, and it's just we're playing multi-table poker. That's what I think we're gonna be doing. We're just gonna be hitting a lot of tabs doing this, and I think the smartest people are gonna know how to manage these things. They're gonna know how to manage people as well. And I actually think that if you pick this up, you're gonna be ahead by a year or two because there's naturally inertia with people. Like I was talking to, I saw one of my private equity friends at lunch yesterday, and he has a PE company. He's like, oh, I'm like, are you touching Claude Code right now? My CTO was sitting there too. I was like, are you doing Claude Code? He's like, oh yeah, all my engineers got it, dude. Claude is great. It's awesome. I was like, no. Are you doing it? He's like, yeah, they got it, man. They're smart people. Oh, no. You don't understand. And then the moment that happened, that interaction happens, I was like, oh shit. I was like, a lot of people are just not going to do this right now, right? But you all are in here because you're smart. And so I'm going to show you a couple things just to get the ideas going for you. And now I'm so excited. I'm just jacking out all these YouTube videos and just riding the wave. Bernard, any questions before I share my screen?
No, I
Okay.
mean, yeah, let's dive
Okay.
in. I
Cool.
share similar excitement, and I think it will be interesting to
Yeah.
see how you're thinking about
Yeah.
everything.
Cool. I'm gonna share this with you guys. Keep it confidential and all that. So check this out. So this is our sales operations room. I'm just messing with this right now, right? And so I'm just like, okay, let's make a little bot that tells me, a little Slack bot that tells me all deals that have stalled out. Okay. So this shows me all deals that have not had activity in the last 21 days or so. Okay. Here's the, money at risk over here. And then, should we act now on this person? Act now will create an email for this person, or you can just snooze this for later. This is still very much a work in progress, but this one, I told my team about this one. This one they said is amazing because this actually pulls, this is all deals that we've lost, okay, in the last couple of years or so, okay? You can change it to the last 12 months or whatever. But imagine if you're part of a SaaS company or a services company, you're going to lose deals, whether it comes down to timing, maybe they went with a competitor, maybe it came down to pricing, whatever it is, right? But if you pitch these people already, this is time you already put in. Why would you not cycle through these people that you should be following up with over here? Like, there's, this person over here or this person from blockchain or whatever, hit send email. And then when I hit send email, the email looks really good. I'll just tell you what it says, like, hey, Bernard, we connected 11 months ago regarding, X, Y, and Z. Does it make sense to reconnect? Or if there's some news, because it pulls from like a API where you can look at the news for that company, it might personalize the first sentence saying, hey, Bernard, I noticed you just made you just raised a round of funding. Hope all is well, blah, blah, blah. But these are actually good emails, right? And so this is going to get to a point where, sure, it's notifying you right now, and then the human has to review, and then they have to, send the email. But eventually it's going to come to a point where if you trust it so much, it's just going to send for you. And the cool thing about this is anybody in here watching this right now, you have the ability to build these products, and the beauty of products is they compound, right? People are amazing. People build things, right? But we're all complex people, and we don't compound. I don't think we compound as predictively as a product does, right? And so if you arm yourself with these weapons and then you show your team how to do this, you're going to be way ahead of everyone else. So I'm going to pause for a second because I think I gave a lot there.
Yeah, I maybe something that would be helpful for everybody is to see some of the magic, if you will.
Yep.
And I think more specifically, maybe within an application of like SEO. Do you have anything that you feel comfortable showing
Yeah.
or
Let me show you
yeah.
a prototype that I have right now. So this is okay, there's two things I can show you here. Let me pull this up. Give me 1 second, guys. Uh Thank you for keeping on track. Okay, cool. We can use this. So there's two things I'll show you. Okay, here we go. So I almost pulled up Claude instead of this Zoom. Okay, so can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, so these numbers aren't accurate over here, just 8,500. Don't look at that. But for example, there's a weekly content performance thing that pulls in my Google Analytics, my Google Search Console. Okay, my Ahrefs API key wasn't working. I had to email them to kind of get that fixed. But for example, we gained for SEO agency that page. Oh, we gained 95 positions. We're position 5 now. Content repurposing agency 92. Okay. Oh, this week's action. You should do this over here. Now, is this amazing right now? No. But how long did it take me to build this? 2 hours? How much more amazing is this going to be if I just keep compounding on this over time? And this feels like I'm playing a video game. I played a lot of video games growing up, and I cannot. My friend messages me all day. He's like, "Dude, I wish I didn't have all these meetings. I would just be in Claude Code all day." And he's also not technical. So this is one. Here's your top converting pages. Again, don't look at these numbers over here. But the idea is there, right? If this is going to surface things for you and then recommend things that you can take action on, and then you can track if these things are actually happening, and you can track the results. How much leverage are you going to gain as an SEO?
A
I
lot,
got one more
man.
for you. I
Yeah.
got one more for you over here. This is my SEO bot test that I built. Okay. And this I've only worked on maybe for like another 2 hours or so. This pulls from Google Search Console data, and it's like, oh, here's a little content decay alert that you have going on. Oh, we're losing traffic on this newsletter page over here. This Discord marketing agent. I think we used to rank #1 for Discord marketing agency back when Web3 was really big, right? And then your blog's going down over here, but this is not that good on itself on its own right now. We need to layer in conversion data. We need to layer in, like whether it's Ahrefs, MCP or Clearscope MCP, whatever it is exactly, we need to figure out what other data we can layer in to make this more useful. But that's okay. This is the very beginning of this. And guys, if I say, I'm telling you 2 hours right now, what else can you build? Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit, man. Yeah, I think these are pretty interesting. Like maybe what I'm trying to ask is what if you opened up your Claude code and we like made something like
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Here, let me just, I'll open up my, so this is how I run it over here. So I'm gonna, here, we can even do this. We can ask questions. I can say, I need to reconnect the Ahrefs MCP actually, but what do you want to make? Let me just open up Claude
all
Code on
right,
this site.
I'm gonna give you, I hope, what is to be a fairly easy project. So Google Search Console exports out queries, right?
Mhm.
And you can get your impressions, your position, your clicks, so on and so forth for your domain. So I think a very interesting thing to know is for an export of Google Search Console queries, where is a domain strong in terms of like topic areas and where would be content gaps that they could create content on to, further boost their domain's topical authority.
Okay, watch. Here, that doesn't work. Here, I took a piece of what you said over here. I just hit dictate. Okay, cool. Well, let's just let it work off of this. Um, So literally, it's going to ask you for permissions. I didn't set it to just YOLO.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes I'll set it to YOLO, but so okay, switch console queries. It knew that it knew to pull from Search Console. Where is the domain strong in terms of topic areas, and where would be content gaps that they could create content to further boost their domain's topical authority. Okay, so I'm just gonna you look. This is how it works right now. If you don't set it to YOLO, which means you kind of just agree to all permissions, you're gonna have to agree to these permissions. Okay, but this is how you started off. You literally, I just let Bernard talk and I just hit the record button on my I use Super Whisper and I'm just letting it go right now. That this is how easy it is to begin right now. And a lot of people on my team right now, they're scared. It's like, oh my God, what do I do right now? Like people are going to my engineers and like acting like they're tech support, right? Don't do that either, right? So my biggest advice as we figure this piece out right now, as you see it happening, is that you sit in the poo-poo for a while because it's gonna be like you're just slamming your head against the keyboard, right? Especially if you're very non-technical. But I think this is very figure outable by many people. So okay. Anyway, it's working right now, right? So it's like, okay, let me see which page level data to see which topic areas have the most content. Let me categorize the queries by topic cluster to identify strengths and gaps. So we have a very strong SEO right here in front of us. SEO in our pocket.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you get where this is going, right? I don't know how long this is going to take to build this. This is going to keep asking me shit, but like categorize GSE queries by topic cluster. This is great.
yeah. Yeah. I wanted to expose people to the actual interface and the actual
Yep.
like back and forth because I think
Yep.
as it stands, Claude Code is extremely powerful, but it's scary, right? It's
Yeah.
scary to like boot up your terminal or, some sort of a text
Yep.
editor and then kind of do some stuff. But like you said earlier,
Yep.
you don't really have any
Yep.
coding background, and yet here you are asking this
Yep.
autonomous agent to do things and it's doing it.
Bernard,
Um,
can I give a practical thought for people, maybe starting from scratch here, and then we can move on. Then maybe I might show you something else here as this builds. But
yeah.
if you all are like, okay, that sounds good, where do I start? I would say if you go on X and use Grok and search for who are the people that are talking about Claude Code the most, follow those people because the information stream on X/Twitter, it's so fast right now. And then some of these people are sharing the best videos out there, and then you can check out those videos, right? But I don't think if you sign up for a course right now or if you do that, like I just think you're going to be so behind anyway, because this stuff is evolving every single day. That's what I would say. So I'm going to let this continue to pull up. But Bernard, what I would say is we have one new thing coming out, I think today, and I basically had it create a go-to-market plan for me that I dictated. I use my phone for this, so you can have Claude code on your phone, and there's like these mixed panel events. It's kind of dictating, hey, here's the different events you should have for this product over here, for a churn customer over here. This is the last email, about reactivating ClickFlow. If you want to come back, the offer still stands. Here's what you can pay per month for it. I looked at all these emails, these go-to-market emails, and they all looked pretty damn good, like 90 to 95% there. Okay, anyway, back to this piece on the right. Looks like we got something here. Okay, so I have a comprehensive picture. So basically, it did an analysis here. If I want to build a product, I can do that, right? But it's like, okay, AI writing tools. Here's where single grain dominates. Here's how many impressions I'm getting. Here's where you're strong, right? Paragraph generator, branded, SaaS, social media, digital marketing agency. We used to rank number one for this keyword. So it's like, hey, I can actually give these content gaps to my team to figure out how to attack. Do we upgrade this content over here? Do we build links towards it? Do we build external links, internal links to it? What do we do exactly? Do we update the FAQs? Do we add some videos to the page to have more dwell time? But at least this gives me a starting point to go after.
There you have it. This is why, if you haven't checked out Claude Code, you should check it out. It still is a little bit painful. You gotta do, some console stuff on your terminal, but honestly, it's really not so bad. I also got started and then I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know coding that well, but
Yeah.
yeah, this is pretty crazy.
Yep. So I'm sure you have ideas now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, cool. Well then, I think as you can see, there is a lot of stuff, and I think it's essentially becoming this idea where your imagination is the limit. I think architecting strategy and plans becomes, the core tasks that you as the SEO content marketing manager really needs to start thinking about, right? So it's not about necessarily doing the work. As you can see, Claude Code is very capable of doing tons of work. In which case, Eric, I'm going to ask you, what are the skills that you think SEOs, marketing managers really need to up level themselves on? I
Yeah.
know, upskilling has been
Yeah.
something you've been very passionate about over many years.
I actually think SEO. So I started in SEO, and I think SEOs are the most dynamic people because you have to adapt so much. Otherwise, you don't survive, right? And so you're in a situation now where I think there's two great books I would recommend. One is called Thinking in Systems because everything you're building, if you're a systems thinker, you're gonna know how things like if you build this tool over here, how does it affect sales? How does it affect marketing over here? And how all these systems interlink with each other. So I'd recommend that book. The other one is I think it's Why Greatness Cannot Be Planned, right? And so you're gonna, as you kind of sleuth around in these things, just understand that as long as you continue to compound your skills, you're gonna end up building something great, whether it's an SEO for your company, or maybe it's your own company that you run, right? So I would say those two things. I think it's more philosophical. I think those of you that have industry knowledge, you know the right questions to ask. If you know the right questions to ask and you know systems thinking, you're going to know the right prompts. Because the biggest challenge with this right now is my friend sent me a message yesterday. He's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing for entrepreneurs. It's the worst thing for entrepreneurs. Why? Because entrepreneurs have ADD, right? Myself included, right? It's like, oh my God, I can build anything now, right? It's like, oh, I'm just going to keep building all these things. You got to make sure that eventually there's going to be a Claude.md file where you can just house all your goals in there and just constantly ask it, hey, should I keep building right now based on my goals? And then my Claude code tells me to stop building, right? It's like, hey, you should probably stop building right now. You should focus on this. You should compound these things over here because Bruce Lee said that it's not the man that's practiced like what 10,000 kicks. It's the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times, right? So use that mindset. I would say a lot of this is mindset.
I think a lot of it is totally mindset. All right, so let's get into some questions. Looks like you got a job candidate
Oh, really? Where? Oh,
in
hey,
chat.
Marcia, singlegrain.com/slash careers. We're looking for AI forward people. Ekta, let me answer your question first. Ekta, if you're still here. Um, okay, Ekta's still here. Ekta, thank you for waiting. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but when it comes to AEO/marketing challenges, and maybe Bernard, you can chime in here too. Attribution. How are you currently tracking attribution? And so, sure, you can use, Amplitude has a free LLM tracker. Ahrefs has the brand radar, which costs an arm and a leg, but they hook it up. It's pretty cool. I think a lot of the citation to LLM tracking right now is theater. I don't. You can disagree with me, Bernard. That makes for good entertainment, but I think, you know, sure, we still track rankings and things like that, but what I would say is I was on a call yesterday with a few of my friends. One guy was doing $20 million a year from affiliate marketing. 20 million, that's basically profit, okay? His websites now generate $2 million a year. Good thing it's not his main business, okay? My other friend, he started his main business in the animal space. We'll just leave it at that, right? And it was all SEO driven. And that business is basically like, okay, in trouble. Good thing he like started, he bought a bunch of other businesses too, right? Um, and so the main thing that we're tracking is we are, for me at least, revenue still going up. Okay, so we might be getting less organic traffic, but conversions are either, I think they're either even or higher. I would say they're slightly higher right now, and because we're still, a lot of our original content's getting grounded in LLMs, right? Now, my other friends, they're just like, and Bernard, I want to get your take on this. They think the content game, the SEO content game is dead. That's what they've said. And these guys are really strong SEOs.
Yeah, so is the question, is the SEO content game dead, or
Yeah,
is it more
that's the
around the
question.
AI citations? Like, how do you think about tracking
Both,
that?
both of them. Let's start with the AI citations. Is that theater or is there, good use to it?
So there's nuance to everything, and I'm just going to caveat that with the fact that LLM and AI technology is fast moving, fast changing. So, what we know today is likely to be very different when new models and new interfaces come out. That said, I think it is in a lot of ways theater, but I think there are some smart ways to go about it, right? And so I think the nods to why it is theater is due to the fact that the LLMs are very volatile and the outputs are probabilistic and in a lot of ways personalized to, its memory and context to each individual user. In that way, what you get back is very unlikely to be what I get back, right? If we're asking similar prompts and questions to these models. Therefore, a generic way to look at AI citations that does not have the personalizations, the contexts, and the memory that a real user has is, like a lot of smoke and mirrors. So I think that speaks to the theater component. I think where it gets interesting is within when you start to look really granularly at the probabilities. And so what I mean by that is that, as I said earlier, when you prompt most AIs will ground with search, right? And when they're grounding with search, they're oftentimes trying to do additional research that they think will create a better response. So if you ask ChatGPT, what are the best SEO tools, it's going to search. And within that search lies, in my opinion, a ton of gold. And so what we're starting to look at least at Clearscope, is the probability of those searches occurring over time. So you can imagine if you prompt it once, you're going to get maybe 5 searches, one for best SEO tools, and then 4 for best SEO tools for keyword research, for technical, right? The different categories of stuff. Tomorrow, when you prompt it, you might get best SEO tools again, but then maybe it starts to say for agencies, for B2B software, and looks at, different categories of, who could be buying the software rather than different categories of what the SEO tools are trying to achieve. You do that again the next day, and you find that it goes back to maybe the category of tooling around, keyword research, backlinks, so on and so forth. And what you get over time is a heuristic of the probabilities of how AI is likely to perform or want to perform research for that particular topic. You can then strategically attack each one of the higher likelihood reasoning chains that the AI is likely to go down. And in that way, you have a higher likelihood of winning AI citations and therefore AI visibility. So I think in its current form, everyone's just saying, I'm hitting a blank API and this is what you're getting. And in that iteration, a lot of it is kind of smoke and mirrors. But when you start to get deeper and go into the probabilistic outcomes, I think that's where you can actually take some action against it. What do you think?
Yep. That's a very fair and reasonable response, and I agree with it. But it's easier for me to say it's theater because it causes more controversy. But are you and is ClearScope? Are you guys doing tracking right now, or is it mainly content?
So we've entered tracking
Okay.
and we've done the at least the first step, which is to ping the generic
Yep.
API and get back the response. And then what we've been sifting through is the fact that like we're designing content against how agents are reasoning
Hmm.
for that particular topic. And
Yep.
then basically the next time the API fires, we realize that the web search has changed. And
Yep.
so our content that we basically created for the
Yep.
agent to ingest is no
Yep.
longer that relevant. And we're finding through all this
Yep.
testing and customer feedback that, well, it's not about the one time, it's about the probability. And now we're like basically going and rejiggering the whole thing so
Yep.
that you're getting insights into, okay, there's 100% of the time when you ask what are the best SEO tools, ChatGPT and Gemini search best SEO tools 2026.
Yep.
But 60% of the time, GPT will search, best SEO tools for keyword research, and 40% of the time, Gemini search best SEO tools for agencies. And
Yep.
these then become cornerstones of content that you need to create if you want to increase the surface area of your
Yep.
brand and your domain.
Yep.
So,
And that's a great retention play as well. So
yes.
Bernard, I know that this is not the Bernard show, but let me ask you another question here. So the AI content game, do you think it is dead based on what my friend said?
No, I think that is not dead. I know I have a vested interest in saying that, so let me let me explain why I do not think it is dead. I think that in a lot of ways, it is more alive than it's ever been. You just have to be smart about it. So if we go and backtrack to the days of SEO, we know through the antitrust case that, Google had with the Department of Justice that Google relies heavily on user engagement signal to inform, whether or not a content piece deserves rank 1, 3, or not at all, right? So Google's measuring dwell times, you're seeing, search journeys, so on and so forth. And Google has basically said, at least 10 years ago, we don't know what the documents say. We just let the users tell us, through their interactions that this is good. Okay, so that's where we've come from, which is to say that Google search results are pretty darn good because they've relied on users to select results to inform whether or not a piece of content is good or bad. In this new world where you're no longer necessarily going to Google, or if you are going to Google and Google has AI mode toggled on, you're not interacting with the SERP anymore, right? The agents are the ones that are interacting with the SERP. The agents still need training data and up-to-date information to prevent inaccuracies and hallucinations on what they're about to say. The contract has broken, though, for publishers because they're not getting traffic anymore. And so they're saying, well, why should we create any new content that's only going to be stolen and I'm not going to get anything but a citation? And what is a citation even worth because it's not sending that much traffic? In this world, agents are doing the searching and they still need content to ingest to give better results to the end user. So in my opinion, it is not necessarily about, oh, creating content is dead. I think it's about understanding what kinds of content to create, recognizing that you're creating content for agents to parse to then give a better answer to the end user. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, so there's a couple things there. So I don't think that and they were more so referring to SEO content game is dead because everyone the game back in the day was you just spam a lot top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. You'd have big content teams, right? I think that game is trending towards dying, but to your point, all these LLMs are grounded on something, right? And the other thing too, Bernard made a good point here. Is the incentives are broken now? Why should the publishers be publishing this stuff? Because they're not getting paid anything. The website traffic is dropping, right? They're making less ad dollars and things like that. But I do think that, okay, you have, we call it search everywhere, which is YouTube. There's always going to be organic channels, right? And so I don't think website traffic is dead yet. Blog traffic is necessarily dead yet. I think, Warren Buffett is right here, just a statue of Warren Buffett over here. So, and this is Charlie Munger. So Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett like to say, they like, they like cigar butt businesses. And what a cigar butt means is that you have a few puffs left, right? And I think there's still a good few puffs left with the SEO content game. So I don't think it's dead yet. I think it's dying. Here's the other thing though, like Bernard, you said you have a vested interest in it. The other thing is I think a lot of people will panic around this and they'll go even harder on it for the next few years or so. So by no means do I think it's dead in the next 5 years or so. I think beyond that, I think we're going to see a different paradigm because are humans like what kind of content are humans going to be creating? Like are agents going to be doing most of the buying, most of the researching? How's that going to look? Are robots interacting with robots more? Like, who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? All right, I'm just gonna steal the spotlight for a little bit because we're talking about Claude Code. I just
Yeah,
want to show like this is how I went around doing it while we were talking.
yeah.
I just spun
Let's see
this
what you
up.
got.
So let's see, share my screen. All right, so I'm using a very, I think, basic version of it. Right? I'm just in command line. I created a test project called SEO. Same idea, right? I'm getting a CSV export from Google Search Console, and then I tell it, I want you to build me a way to analyze which topics my domain is strong. And then usually, this is common best practice now. It's like ask me questions until you have everything that you need to like make this happen. So yeah, so I answered some questions. What kind of application? What are the topics that should be categorized? What metrics matter most? It asked me some more questions about, different ways that I want the classification to work. And then it got everything it needed. It wrote me an HTML file. And then, yeah, there were some problems. You usually tell it, I have these problems, right? Analysis is failed. And then, yeah, so this is what I got. I put in my key, I
Nice.
dropped in my CSV, and then, it did this basically as like the core, like starting point. So again, just kind of pointing out what Eric is saying. It's really, really simple. And when he says he has fire, this is fire, right?
Yep.
This is basically, if you're semi-technical, you just get access to being able to do whatever you want with data sets. And so what I think a lot of people are running around realizing is that with the right data, this is why MCP servers are becoming, a very common paradigm because you can pull data from Ahrefs or SEMrush or, wherever really easily. And then with those, you can then start to get these kinds of insights that you want like done. And again, this is where, systems-based thinking, like Eric was mentioning earlier, becomes really important because you have to come up with the whole kind of like architecture and say, okay, like, well, if I have these content gaps, what am I going to do with them? And, what does all of that mean? And the clearer you can think through all of that, the clearer the outputs you're going to get from this thing are likely to be.
This is great. It's I think ultimately you just need to get out there and try it. And again, it's not going to be, especially if you're not technical, it's going to be very frustrating in the beginning. But once you can get over the hump, you feel like a whole new world has been unlocked for you. That's what I would say.
I think so. I think it
Yeah.
literally feels like you have this like super agent that you just
Uh-huh.
like can like go like oh like go do something and then it
Yep.
does it and then you're like wow that's pretty good. And then I
Yep.
think where you get surprised is probably within like the follow-up because
Yep.
sometimes it's like oh well now that I've done this do you want me to do that? And you're
Yeah.
like well yeah
Yeah.
that's
Well, the,
I
the
do
crazy
want you
thing
to
too is you
do
can
that.
ask it to interview you because most humans, I'll just say myself, like we think in incomplete, very poorly defined thoughts, right? And you can ask it to clarify for you. So there's an ask user question feature in there, and it will literally interview you on all the things that it thinks are missing with whatever product spec that you have. And so it's this. I think about it from an SEO standpoint. You can think about it from a business standpoint. But that's a key takeaway. Like I'm about to do a webinar right after this. Claude Code again. I'm about to go to lunch with a friend. Claude Code again. That's all I'm talking about right now. So
Hey, I think it's a very timely
yeah,
time to be talking about it.
yeah,
And it is game changing for all kinds of different reasons.
yeah,
All right, I think we have a couple more questions that I'd like to get to. Anonymous asks, love to hear your thoughts about SEO, AEO on socials like Instagram. I'll throw in X, LinkedIn, Threads, TikTok as well.
yeah.
What do you think?
I don't think about SEO for those. I'll tell you what. We're like even for YouTube when we're hiring people to join the SEO team. If they talk about keyword tagging and things like that, you're out, right? Because every game. Yeah, that's true. Every game has a meta, and I look at every channel as a game, right? And what I mean by a meta is the most optimized way of playing that game. So if we start with YouTube, I'll just give you an example here. Maybe I'll kind of go down the list. When you're playing on YouTube, what matters is the idea matters a lot, right? So if you have a really good idea, like this is why Mr. Beast does so well, because he has crazy ideas, crazy spectacles all the time. Okay. Ideas number one. Two, your headline matters a lot. And then three, your thumbnail matters a lot, and then your first 30-second retention. Why am I telling you this right now? This is YouTube SEO. It's not keyword research, tagging, all that. That doesn't matter as much as what I'm talking about here, right? Now, when we move over to X, for example, X algorithm, Nikita Beer, who's their head of product now, I guess, he has reported on how the X algorithm works. If you post really high quality stuff for a very consistent period of time, you're going to get a lot more reach. And then if you get a lot more reach, well, then it should be easy for the algorithms to spot that. I actually don't know if X is openly crawlable anymore, but and nor do I think some of these other ones are. But I don't really think about SEO for those. And same thing for Instagram too. I just think about a really good idea, and some of these ideas take off. The best ideas where I get millions of views on Instagram is when Neil and I talk about discounts for whatever reason, right? But that also doesn't convert, so you got to keep that in mind too. So not all organic reach is good. You want organic reach that converts.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, each system has a different way to game it. I posted when this like there's that leaked internal file of
Yeah,
Mr. Beast's, YouTube like everything. So I just posted that in
it's
chat.
a good
But
one.
very good one. And yeah, very each thing is different. So do you think I guess maybe I'm trying to again reframe it around AIO,
Yeah,
AEO
yeah,
stuff. Like if we're to think about the 100% of factors that goes into winning a brand mention or a citation, I realize those are very different.
hmm
How would you allocate the percentages in your mind, from anything, like it can be off page, it can be, brand authority, it can be content, it can
yeah,
be social. Like, where
yeah,
are you placing that 100%
yeah.
of stuff currently?
I think it depends. So I'll just speak selfishly for us. We have a new gal that's coming in to lead SEO. She actually loves Clearscope. And her whole thing that has worked at a publicly traded company was heavy on data storytelling. So if you're a publicly traded company, you have a lot of data, the graphs and charts that you show, those are really good at getting not just links, but these are links from large publications, right? And you get interviews and things like that. You appear on podcasts. So data storytelling is something that we're going to push a lot harder on. That goes directly under content. And so if I were to answer your question directly, I would say I'm probably spending in general, every business is different. Maybe I'm spending 80% of my budget on content. 20-30% I'm probably thinking about how I can, test things such as you can call it PR or link building, right? And the reason why I'm saying 20-30% there is you guys just saw some of my traffic. So I do rank really well for a lot of agency type pages, or these listicles rank really well. I can either build internal links to those links still work, guys, or I can externally link build. And let's just say I have a friend. He spent an arm and a leg on links in the past, and there's a reason why he's ranking number one on everything. So a lot of people don't pay attention to link building because it's like doing sales without being able to quantify what you're truly getting at the end of the day. So it's difficult, right? But that's what I would say. So heavy on content. I would probably go more today, at least, given my website, because there's a little authority on my website. I'd probably go more bottom of the funnel transactional content, so these agency pages. Whereas in the past, I might have done majority top of the funnel, middle of the funnel. Now it's reversed. And so, data storytelling. There's the lead magnets as well, or taking certain products or features that we have from like Carrot or whatever, and giving those away for free. Those do a good job of attracting links as well.
Yeah. So to then simplify it, a lot, still heavy on content, now more bottom of funnel
Yep.
with unique, fresh, interesting insights that add to,
Yeah. The
the more
discourse.
long tail topics that you want to
Yeah.
pursue.
Yeah. And I think what we're seeing too on X, like there's or X or Instagram or whatever. I in the last year or so, we've pushed quantity, not so much quality. I do think if those of us that are not just creating content for SEO, but just content in general, if we spend more time strategizing, we're going to do a lot better because the content just rips that way. And it gets a lot more shares, and there's the retention time's a lot higher. But I found that when I go to the studio and I had YouTube consultants just writing scripts for me, and I'm just reading off the scripts on a teleprompter, I hate it. Right? One, I hate you can tell that I hate it, and there's no energy coming from it. Right? Like this one, it's like you and I just having a conversation, and you're you and I'm me. That's how you want to be when you're creating content across the board.
Yeah. All right. So that brings me down that this thought of, AI agents, AI personas. Like, have you thought about dabbling with like a way where you have like, five different like AI personas and then you say like, okay, here's a marketing campaign idea. Now like, rate it in terms of your resonance. Are you at that level of like practicing stuff?
I I think we're going in that direction. I'm curious because you're saying that. I'm curious to see what you're doing with it. But I just the fact that with a lot of these, you see the videos now where like you can make yourself into whatever you want, like a white person, whatever. You can make yourself into a girl, like what I think we're going to see a lot of that in marketing, and that's where marketers tend to pollute things. And so I see that coming. I'm not doing it right now. I'm curious because you asked, what are you doing with it right now?
No, nothing, nothing. I
Okay.
I know people are starting to like go,
Yeah.
okay, this is because essentially we're entering this era just based off of everything we've shown and talked
Yep.
about, where production and building is largely a commodity.
Yep.
Therefore, like you were saying, what becomes important is like the ideation and aspects of the clarity of the execution, right? So I think if those are basically becoming more of the dominant ones, we then have to think about systems to help us create better ideas and
Yep.
to execute, or at least to have a more fleshed out way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
So that's
One thing
just
I
kind
will
of
give
like,
you,
yeah.
I had a video on Instagram that got this was like 3 million views or so, and I was talking about this one company where they use models. And when I say models, not AI models, I'm talking about like what female models, okay? And when you have the models, the conversion rate goes higher. On the sales conversion rate, the price goes higher. Or when you're trying to collect a debt, for example, if you have two models in the background, the debt collection rate goes a lot higher, right? So all that to say, this is just human behavior, right? And so I see a lot of people they're going to be taking advantage of this. And so I I don't know. I just we're going to go into a crazy world. And the final thing I'll add to this actually is I think in-person events are going to become way more valuable. And so I'll probably be bringing my events back. I'll probably be doing like a lot more virtual stuff, workshops, things like that. I think people just want to be able to connect with each other because we're going to go into this world where everyone's using Claude Code, but eventually everyone's going to realize that, oh my God, it's the human stuff that actually matters.
Yeah, it it is the human stuff that actually matters because guess what? I'm not actually here. No, I'm kidding. All right. Well, we got, 5-ish minutes left. Like any things I should have asked you or any, things you're really just brimming and can't stop talking about, it can be Claude
No,
Code.
everything lives within Claude Code. I'm just looking at all the things that I built. It's just trust me. I would say if you're going to touch this stuff, focus on maybe like one or two core products and just keep compounding on them and then just keep getting feedback from your team. And you don't need to like I know the terminal that Bernard showed and like what I showed with Cursor, like it seems like a lot of stuff. Even if you open just Claude on your phone, there's a little code section. There's even a co-work session, co-works thing that they just launched this week where you can test it on just organizing your desktop files, for example, right? And then on the SEO piece, I think those are like it's good that you all are here because you're trying to continue to learn. The reason why I say we're in the best position as SEOs because we've always adapted, but the world's moving, it's turning even faster now. So just be prepared to adapt faster. And I think the SEOs that ultimately win, not I think I know, are the ones that have always gotten better. The ones that you see on Twitter or X complaining all the time, those are the ones that have always tried to just stick with the old ways and they haven't adapted, right? That's why they just sit there and complain all the time. Don't be them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, check out Claude Code, check out, all these new fascinating ways of doing things. And yeah, like Eric said, it looks crazy, but honestly, it's not that crazy. And then once you get going, I think you will start to feel like you found fire, like Eric said.
Yeah.
All right, well then predictions. Let's talk about predictions. You've asserted some interesting stuff like, AI citations, visibility is theater, SEO content is, gone, whatever. I know we've discussed those, but what are some other bold predictions that you have for
I actually
2026,
have written in my
2027?
year. I have it written in my year in review. Do you want me to just read off these predictions?
Do it.
Okay, these are not just marketing. This is high level.
Yeah,
Cool.
go.
Okay. Okay. So the rise of socialism will continue to spread. Okay.
Okay.
Bitcoin will hit all-time highs. There will be growing pushback towards AI where there's going to be a faction of haves and have-nots. I would like everyone here to be a have. There will be continued growing layoffs due to AI gains and the unwillingness of people to adapt. There's natural inertia in companies. Software products that add a contextual layer, so memory, will become a default expectation, and that's what gets me to stick with like a ChatGPT, for example, the memory piece, right? And I think that we could potentially hit 6 to 8% GDP growth in 2026. So we'll see if that happens. I was 6 for 9 last year. We'll see how accurate I am this year.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, you should make a prediction market on some of those, huh?
Yeah, probably. How about yours?
Oh, well, I haven't really given it that too much thought. I'm not usually a prediction person. But the one that comes to my mind more specifically is Google's AI mode. I think it's a matter of when, not if. And I think it's not, in my opinion, so black and white. I think that in 2026, we are going to see like a bifurcated search experience where Google will automatically detect the kind of query or prompt that you're typing in, and it will basically delegate either 10 blue links or AI mode based off of what it thinks will be a more successful outcome for you. So I think that that's gonna roll out in 2026. I mean, ads for AI mode have already been experimentally showing up, and I think that that will further cause concern, at least, because traffic continues to decline and executives and marketing teams will continue to freak out. That's the one I think about, at least in terms of search. I think some other stuff, if we're just talking like off the cuff, I think you mentioned this, but I think Gemini will be the winner in the generalized like AI space. They're just completely well positioned to do that with Google Search, YouTube, Maps, Waymo, Chrome, Android, you name it. They basically, when they're ready to for the world to experience AI as it needs to, they just flip the switch and they have all the distribution already.
Yep.
This means that more specialized AI will still exist. You're seeing that happen with Claude Code, right? They're like, okay, we're gonna focus really hard on the building and the, code aspects of, software or large language model capabilities. I think we're gonna see OpenAI really scramble to find where they fit into, this world where they're losing both the generalized game and don't have the data and the access that Google has. And they're basically starting to lose the specialized game to, challengers like Claude Code. And so, yeah, I think those are probably,
Cool.
my predictions.
Well, I think this is a good place to end. Thanks for having me, Bernard. And maybe I'll message you. You should come on to my webinar I'm doing next week. But I got to run to this other webinar here. So hopefully this was helpful for everyone.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, we're gonna leave it at that. I'll send everyone a recording. This one was definitely, a lot more hands-on, a lot more back and forth. I hope you all liked it. And if you did, let me know because we can have plenty more of these. We can make them more hands-on and we can have Eric back whenever we want.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks, guys. Have a
All
good
right.
day.
See y'all.